I'm Robin Crane, and this is the Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way podcast. Listen, I was a financial advisor for over a decade, and I got so sick of the old archaic strategies that your grandpa used to get clients. What the industry teaches today is still so outdated and just doesn't work anymore. So I had to find a better way for myself, and then I got obsessed with sharing these how-tos with other women like me. The stuff I teach doesn't require giving up your life, your sanity, or your family time. I want women like you to have it easier than I had it, so you can thrive in the industry. I've now helped thousands of women grow their financial businesses to multiple six figures, some even seven figures per year. So on this podcast, you're going to get an inside look at how they did it so you can do it too. Let's dive into the show.
Welcome back. I am here with Hope Zvara. And that name is just fun. Like that Zvara. I feel like it could be very sexy. It could be exotic. I think there's a lot of things around there I probably shouldn't go in that direction, but that's not what we're talking about today. But Hope actually is the CEO of Mother Trucker Yoga. Mother Trucker Yoga. And we're not swearing here. And which is so interesting because she also teaches people how to improve their signature talks and create keynotes and whatnot. And so I know she's helped a lot of businesses grow their businesses. So the fact that she has her own company and has done so many other things to help businesses shows that she is truly an expert. So yeah, tell us a little bit about where we're going to talk about how to get known for something and why that's so important, stay in your lane. So tell us a little about your story and how you kind of got there, and then we'll segue into that.
Yeah, when people hear that I'm in trucking, usually the response is, "Are you a truck driver?" And I'm not. I am not a truck driver. I do not have a CDL. Maybe one day in the future with one of the schools I work with, I'll go ahead and do that on my bucket list, let's say. But I really got my start in the yoga world. I always tell people that yoga found me. I didn't find yoga. I was struggling with addiction and anxiety, depression. I always say, why do one thing when you can do them all? And
I'm totally all or nothing. That sounds right up my alley.
And I was just struggling to find something to help me. And I don't want to say that the people around me gave up on me, but it was kind of like they didn't know what else to do for me. And then one day at work, I was working as a lifeguard at the time as a older teenager. I think I was maybe senior.
A lifeguard with addiction.
Yeah. I struggled with the eating disorder. I'm not alcohol at that time, but and started with an eating disorder, anxiety, depression, and I was a kind of overcompensating extrovert to try to make up for that, and really good at everything, that I was doing externally, but I was struggling massively internally. And someone at work one day said to me, "You look like someone that would practice yoga." And then she walked away. And something in me just kind of was like, "You should practice yoga." And full disclosure, I don't even think I heard the word yoga. I'm from a small town in Wisconsin. I had I
hear that in your voice.
Yoga. But I found a class in a neighboring town and I showed up. I was half the age as everyone in the class, but something happened that day in that yoga class. And when I walked out of the door, I had felt something I hadn't felt in years. My mind was clear. I was calm. I felt at peace. And that Wednesday night yoga class became my weekly ritual of second chances. And eventually that led me into recovery, but that also led me to open my own studio and kind of create a community that I was thirsty for. And I started a yoga school and I ran that for almost 10 years. But I always felt like that wasn't where I was supposed to be. I was good at it. I had a great following. I had spoke on all the big yoga and fitness stages. I had a great reputation in my area. That wasn't the problem. Paying all my bills, living a great life in what I would think is a great life. But I felt like there was something out there more for me. And then 5 years ago, I was at a local business mixer here in my small hometown in Wisconsin. And I start talking to this guy. I'm trying to pitch him corporate yoga because that's what partly I was doing at the time. And he looked at me and said, "Do you have anything for truck drivers? Like in the cab of the truck?" And I think I'm funny sometimes. And I threw up my hands and I said, "Mother Trucker Yoga." Really just trying to get a rise out of this guy. And he looks at me and says, "That's brilliant. You want to go into business together?" And we shook on it. The next morning, he called me up. We had built a business from scratch in 4 months, launched at the biggest trucking event here in the US. And then a year later, I bought him out of the business because I kind of was doing everything. And the last 5 years alone, we've helped over 200,000 drivers change lanes in their health and fitness. all based on small, simple changes. And it was the same concept that got me into recovery. It was the same concept that had helped me and allowed me to help thousands of people in the yoga world. And now I'm helping drivers do the same thing. So it's exciting.
And I like details sometimes, but I'm just curious. So how they're driving in the air, how do they do this?
Yeah, so this always makes for a great conversation. We are not doing yoga out in the trucking parking lot with our yoga mats, doing Warrior 2. But really what I'm teaching drivers is kind of the breakdown of what it looks like to live an active, healthy lifestyle. So there are many things that I teach them that they can do safely while driving, whether it be, how to stretch out their lower back with pelvic tilts or rolling their shoulders, twists, different breathing techniques for them when they're stressful or stressed. Things they can do in their sleeper, which is their bed in the back of their truck, stuff that they can do discreetly while filling up with fuel that looks like they're just tying their tennis shoe. Just really practical things to help catapult themselves into a healthier lifestyle where they once thought were barriers. And this really kind of stems from how I got into recovery, because I felt like everything else everyone was telling me were these big looming concepts that was just like, yeah, that might be easy for you, but have you ever been an addict? It's not that easy. And this like whole breakdown, step-by-step approach, tiny little things was really what got me into recovery and helped me get into recovery medication free and stay there and be in the place I am today. I've taken that into how I teach health and wellness and yoga for that matter, and kind of breaking it down, making it less scary. And it's been working.
Awesome. Well, let's get into like this known for stuff, because I think that's really scary for people. And I don't know, it sounds like you took a risk, but someone was also there to support you. And I would say, just like people were saying, easy for you to say kind of thing. It's like, well, that sounds easy. Yeah, if someone came up to me and maybe I had nothing to lose, I don't know where you were in your life at that point, and you came up with this idea, and I don't know if he supported you financially or if he was just like, what's your idea? Let's flesh it out and let's do this. But I think people are really scared to pigeonhole themselves and say, this is what I do, or this I only do, even niching. I don't even talk a lot about niching or even target marketing. We have an idea of cloning your ideal client, because truly like it's very scary for people. So I guess not just how did you do it, but also how do you teach people to do that when there is a lot of fear around kind of planting your flag or staying in your lane?
Well, I think first of all, I did not come into Mother Trucker Yoga with thousands and thousands of dollars in my bank account. I had I was paying all my bills. I had a successful business, but it wasn't like I had this huge reservoir of money just to be like, yeah, what the heck? Let's see what happens. And neither did he. But we both saw that this was a feasible idea once we started looking at the market. He was in trucking, and I was not, but I was in, yoga in this fitness space and kind of doing this in what I saw as the connection in small spaces, in corporate, chair yoga, things like that. I saw the adaptation, and both of us had the mentality, and maybe it's a personality thing. What do we have to lose? For me, in my mind, I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work, and I stay running a yoga studio and teaching. I ran them both simultaneously for about 2 years before I let go of the yoga studio. And I was like, okay, now I really need to jump in and do this full time. But this idea of kind of niching down, I fought for a really long time, because I thought, how am I ever going to make a living just helping truck drivers? Like the panic set in. But what about my moms? What about people in corporate? What about, the plumbers? What about, and that's like, you start having this like anxiety of missing out on those opportunities. But my mentor, I was very grateful for him. And he was just like, Hope, trust me, you have to pick. And what I was doing before wasn't getting me the results I wanted. I wanted to get to the next level, and I couldn't get there. And so my whole motto when I started Mother Trucker Yoga was I was going to do things right this time. So I put my blinders up, and I was like, I'm only going to speak to truck drivers. I'm only going to talk to truck drivers. Everything I do in social, everything I do in my languaging, on my website, like I'm not going to broaden outside of that. There's, 3.5 million truck drivers in the US, and I think over 7, globally. There's not a shortage here. So it's not like I'm, trying to go after a population of 3. But in that process, something really cool happened. The more I only talked to them, the more other people started coming to me and saying, can you help me too? 2 years in, or it was like a year and a half in, I had an association of security guard officers say, oh my gosh, I heard you speak. And could you help my security guard officers? They're not driving, but they're standing all day. And then I got to decide if I work with them or not. Right. Last year, a pilots organization of 400 pilots came to me and said, oh my gosh, what you're doing is amazing. Did you know that pilots and truck drivers have the same DOT medical examination requirements? Can you help us? I got to decide. And that's the beauty. And that's when you know you've niched down the right way. People start coming to you and you get to decide. And that's what's happened to me.
So is there like a step-by-step process of how you do this? And I mean, I'm assuming I would teach it quite differently than you, but there's a lot of similarities, I would say, for sure, because here's what I found too with the women that I work with is that when, we even have language of like, typically I work with, and we say typically because instead of saying like, I only work with truck drivers, it'd be like, typically I work with truck drivers, but you're talking to them directly to them about them, their challenges and the results. And then people are like, oh, I'm not a truck driver, or I'm not divorced, but can you help me? Because like they resonate with the same problems and the results. So I would imagine that's similar with, because like pilots and these other type of communities going up to you like, hey, we have some similarities. We have the same type of problems. We want the same things. And so can you help me? And it immediately establishes credibility when you plant your flag and you say, this is who I work with, versus I work with anybody and everybody. I remember I taught that system to this one woman and she's like, I don't know why it's not working. And I'm like, well, let me hear it. And she's like, okay, typically I work with, and she went through this process, and the process we teach is like, typically I work with, insert the person who have the challenge of what are the challenges specifically that you can solve. And then I help them. What are the results? And then, so she said that, and she said that, and she said that, and she's like, but I can work with anyone. And I said, whoa. Did you say that? Did you say that? She's like, yeah, I mean, not always exactly that, but something like that. I can work with everybody. And I'm like, stop. You completely said basically, I am credible. I'm super duper credible. Just kidding. I'm totally not. Just, can you throw me a bone? I'm desperate. So I would assume you found that as well, but I would agree with you. But how would you say, is there a system that those listening can kind of follow to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, take the mindset of exclusivity. When like Tickle Me Elmo, when I was in middle school was crazy. And you only knew there was like 1,000 that were being shipped to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Everyone was like, oh my God, I need it. Even if they didn't have a kit, right? Like they were like going gaga over it. So kind of staying in your lane and niching down creates a little bit of a sense of exclusivity. And people by nature don't want to be missing out. Like they don't want to be left out. We're pack animals. Like
there is something called FOMO. Like it's a real thing. I have a lot of it.
Yes. But also, like you said, it's being super clear on the problem you solve. And one of the things that I've recognized working with thousands of businesses and speakers is that when you ask someone, what's the problem you solve? Most of the time they're talking actually about the result. They're like, well, I help people with weight loss. I'm like, well, last time I checked, weight loss is a good thing. Well, I help businesses make more money. Well, last time I checked, making more money is actually a good thing. And so it's about connecting with your audience or with your client with the problems in the language that they use that are looming around in their head right at this very moment. And so if it's around this idea of weight loss, is it the fact that they can't lose the last 10 pounds, or that they hate the way they look in the mirror, or is that their jeans don't fit? As professionals, because we've crossed the finish line, we adapt these like fancy words and this fancy language, and we're so excited about it. It's like, you have imposter syndrome. And the person on the other end is just like, no, I just don't believe I'm good enough. And so why not use those words? Connect with them while speaking directly to them. And they're going to actually come to you and be like, wow, can you help me? That's exactly the problem that I have. And at the other piece then is, are you offering what they want? Like, are you giving them what they want? And this is one thing, when I stepped into trucking, I did my research. So to those of you listening, do a little research on the people you want to serve. How can they digest, or how do they want to take in what you're offering? Drivers are driving at all times of day. They have the ability to do things, at a moment's notice, but then they might not for hours later. So having like a traditional coaching program is not ideal. So I knew right away I needed to create a membership site with videos that were very short, 3 to 5 minutes long. So they're easy to digest because they don't have a lot of time all the time, but give them quick wins that they can access from anywhere. And so we created an app. so that it's even easier for them. So they don't have to worry about logging on and websites and all of that. So I did a little research to figure out, how do they digest content the best? How do they take in stuff like this? And I created something around that. So for those of you listening, what you like might not be what your clients like. And that could also be a barrier to you kind of getting in your lane, getting the clients you want, getting noticed, but also getting the income and the customers that you've been waiting for.
And how about, like, let's go back a step, because what you're talking about is what, we outside of the industry, because I feel like within the financial industry, they don't talk about this, but we refer to as messaging. I mean, you're also talking about how they digest content, which is more the deliverable, but the messaging you're talking about, like really understanding the problems that you solve and using their language is so huge. Because I talk about this all the time with financial professionals. It's like they're talking about, rolling over the 401k, or they're talking about, withdrawals or distributions. And you're like, dude, people aren't talking like that. Like, that's not what they're saying. My biggest problem is I don't know what my withdrawal strategy is going to be. I don't know what distribution I'm going to take from my FIA, which is.
I haven't thought about the generational income level of my family right now. Like, that's how professionals, that's kind of the finish line, which I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the starting and meeting those people where they're at is really a game changer in growing your presence, your audience, staying in your lane, and getting people, like you said, to like, know, and trust you and believe that you're the expert, because then finally you're the first person that is speaking to them. It's like, yes, you can help me with my problem, even though they need all that other stuff. Wait until they're working with you to like give them all that stuff. Like, wait a little bit longer, and you're going to notice that those relationships build that much faster.
But how do you pick? Like, because I keep thinking that if you know who it is, now we can do all those things. But like, how do you figure out who that is? Do you just say, well, again, I feel like I have to be secretive about my system, but I'm trying not to not give it away, but just like, I'm curious, because there's more. What is it, the saying? They say there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. It's a horrible saying. It's a really bad saying.
It is a little bad of a visual.
Like, when you think about it, I'm like, I should not say that. But yeah, there's many ways to do it. But do you have a specific way that has worked for you? I mean, you just kind of met some dude and he's like, hey, you got any ideas about this? And you're like, let's do it. But
I think for a lot of business owners or a lot of people growing their business or wanting to step into a new business, the lowest hanging fruit. I'm good at a lot of things. I can help a lot of people. I didn't develop my business and speaking coaching business at the same time I did mother trucker yoga. I wanted to. I was like, man, I could really help people with this. But like, I had to get credibility somewhere else in order to leverage that to do this other thing. And so what's the lowest hanging fruit? That's the first thing. What's the audience that you can most easily step into? Oftentimes, it can be who you are. When I started speaking, I was speaking to stages on recovery and stages on grief because my husband and I lost our daughter. I could relate with those people. I knew I could help them. I used my yoga strategies, my meditation strategies that I used in my life, and I taught them those. And I gained credibility as a speaker. And then I took those skills into other areas. And so for those of you listening, what's the lowest hanging fruit? Maybe that's the audience you currently are. Like, you are that person. You've become that. Now you're going to turn around and help other people. You lost 50 pounds. Now you want to help other middle-aged women lose 50 pounds. Whatever that is. So that's kind of step one. And then really from there, it's like, how can I, or where can I go with this? What can I develop that's the easiest and that they want? I made the mistake in the yoga world. I went and created like 11 different courses. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I'm going to create all these courses. It's going to be so great. And here I made all these programs and no one bought them. Why? Because I was making programs for me. I wasn't making programs for them in the way they wanted them. And that was a huge mistake, a huge time suck, and a huge expense. So you got to know your client, know the ins and outs of them, do the research, look at other people in your space and see what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they're pricing it. And ask people. That's the other big thing. I was not afraid when I started in trucking to ask drivers, what would you like? What are you currently seeing in the industry? Do you like it? Is it working? How would you do it differently? I wasn't afraid to ask. Some people see that as a weakness. Oh, then you're going to be seen as somebody that's not an expert. Oh, honey, you got it all wrong.
That's the opposite.
When I ask my clients, when I ask my drivers whether they work with me or not for feedback, they become loyal to me. They feel like they're a part of my brand, a part of my mission, a part of my message. They become even more loyal. Now I have raving fans. And I wish someone would have taught me that years ago, because I was too guarded. I was too secretive. I was keeping my stuff too quiet, and that was hurting me.
Yeah, that's great. And I think also, I don't know if it's just me, but I think as women, especially, like we have this tendency to be concerned about doing it wrong or making the wrong decision, like as if we can never change it. Like you said, I got nothing to lose. Like I can try this, and you planted your flag and you're like, now I started to post on social media, on my website, and all these things. And so what's the worst that can happen? I mean, besides time, energy, effort, like, yeah, that matters. That matters. And then but I think it's most women and maybe most people, but I think women especially are like concerned about what is everybody going to think? Mm-hmm. Like if I start this project, or if I, say I'm working with this person and this is the target market, and then it doesn't work out and now I change it, like, what are they going to think? What do they, it's going to show that I failed or whatever. Like we're just so worried.
I've thought that way too many times in life. And it's usually halted me, and it's usually me overthinking what I think they think. But it's all based in my fears. It's based in my insecurities. It's based in my shortcomings. And I'm projecting that onto them, almost like to safeguard myself. One of the things I try to do every single day is to look at myself in the mirror when I go to bed at night. I kind of reflect on my day, and I'm like, what can I do better tomorrow? Like I kind of take inventory of myself, and I always pointed the finger at everybody else that they were the reason why I didn't succeed. They were the reason why I was stuck. And one of the most empowering things I did for myself personally and professionally was point the finger back at myself. Okay, why am I not getting this? Why is this person not calling me back? Why did I not land that stage? Why aren't enough people enrolled in my group coaching program? Whatever it is. And if I first take inventory with myself and I'm able to be honest, usually it's because I dropped the ball somewhere. Because I have too many irons in the fire and my efforts are diluted. Or quite frankly, because maybe I really don't want what I keep saying I want, and I haven't been honest with myself about it. And that strategy, if you want to call it one, has also allowed me to move forward faster, because the buck stops with you. I have a little sign over my shipping desk over on the other side of my office that says 99% of business problems are personal problems in disguise. And that's to remind me that it's me. I'm the one in the driver's seat. I'm the one that's running this business. Like I have to take responsibility. And man, when you do, it's an empowering experience.
Yeah, I definitely, I feel like I put so much attention on working on myself. And I don't also, just like you, I'm not necessarily, I think it's easy to look at yourself in the mirror and say, why didn't that work? And then blame yourself and go down this rabbit hole of how much you suck. And I think that's very dangerous. But understanding with empowerment, like you said, of like, I think Lisa Nichols said this to me, is like your business growth is a direct reflection of your personal growth. Like your business can only grow as much as your personal development.
And people don't see that connection.
People don't see that, but they don't see that, and they don't want to see it though, because it's like, oh crap, I can't blame the world. I can't make excuses. Like I just have to change me. And I think it's hard. Like I've listened to so much law of attraction stuff, and I'm totally into that type of stuff. But then when you're in it, like when you're in what I call it the swamp, like it's like deep, you can't see, you have no visibility, got leeches on your face, and you're like, man, like this just sucks. It's really hard to be like, yeah, but I'm going to breathe. Like you're talking about with little yoga techniques, the little tiny things, like I'm going to breathe through this. I'm going to focus on the fact that like everything always works out. Like I can kind of get there, but I also have to get through the anger, and one of the things I've also found is like when I try to curb it and just Tony Robbins myself out of it, like, in a heartbeat, like, okay, no, I'm not actually anxious. I'm excited, but I'm calling it anxious. I guess Mel Robbins says that too, but it's like, no, I'm freaking anxious. Like, okay, how long do I want to stay anxious? Like, 2 minutes, like 10 minutes, 2 hours. Okay. Like if I want to like go dig myself into a hole and like feel anxious or mad or upset or depressed or whatever, like sometimes I'm just like, I gotta feel like this. I have this conversation with my CEO.
You have to go through the feelings. You have to feel the shit and then cut yourself off. I mean, I used to beat myself up for weeks. My very first blog post I ever wrote was on Mind Body Green. And in there I was
Mind Body what?
Mind Body Green, the website Green. Mind Body. Yeah. Mind Body Green, like the color. Okay. And I wrote on how to do chaturanga correctly. And in the copy, one of the spaces where I wrote the word chaturanga, which is kind of a screwy word, I missed an A. And one of the comments, there were hundreds of comments from people going, this is the amazing blow. Oh my gosh, this is great. I've never done this before. This doesn't hurt my elbows anymore. And I had one comment that says, oh, and you call yourself a yogi? You can't even spell chaturanga, and just ran me through the ringer. I did not sleep for a week. I was like, oh my gosh, I suck. I should never do this. I should just like curl up and die. I should just stay a yoga teacher and no one know about me. And like, I beat myself up for a week. And then like 3 weeks later, someone on Facebook messaged me and they're like, hey, it's from, I don't know, Virginia or something. I read your post on Mind, Body, Green on Chaturanga. And I got to tell you, I saw the comment from such and such. I know him. He's I don't remember the word he used. It was like, he's like a leech or like a piranha. He jumps yoga studio to yoga studio and leaves bad reviews about everybody. Like he's dropped out of teacher trainings multiple, like he's bad news. Don't worry about his comment. And that really stuck with me. And it reminded me of a valuable lesson that I try to remind myself of now years later. And it's that one, you got to go through the feelings. But two, a lot of times those are all opportunities for you to learn. What that taught me was, Hope, if you really want to go to where you say you want to go, there are going to be haters. And you got to learn how to deal with this. This guy was online, but wait until it's the guy in the audience telling you that this is stupid. Or it's the person that's, writing all over your social media that you're a fake or a phony or what, like, how are you going to handle that? And so for me, it was like, okay, yeah, you got to go through it. But then, if you can't get through it, maybe what you say you want isn't really what you want. And these are just things that I've learned for me to ask myself in that process and in that journey. But it's really helped me build strength and confidence, because confidence comes from action. It's not a feeling, Mel Robbins, right? And you have to take the action step. So wherever you are in your life today, whether it's like refining your audience or it's getting on a stage, like, you got to actually do the action to figure out if you're even going to feel those feelings in the first place, right? And then deal with them as they come. Having strategies in your back pocket. I have alarms on my phone reminding me to drink water. It sounds like a water on a faucet because the alarm triggers me and makes me feel uncomfortable like a normal alarm. I have stuff on my phone that lights up and tells me to remind myself of posture. Like these are all strategies. These are all tools to help me. So in those moments you were talking about, I'm not frozen. I'm not just going back to the old Hope that I don't want to be. And those are just some of the things that I've done to kind of help me move forward.
Yeah, so good. I mean, anytime you meet someone successful, there's always those type of things. Like there's some sort of routine or there's some sort of obviously strategy to pick you back up, because it's not like we don't fall. It's just we get back up. And I think that's really important as far as whether it's, niching your business, or I like to say cloning your ideal clients, or whatever it is to attract the right people. I think a bigger takeaway here, beyond that is screw what everybody thinks, first of all, like, because they don't know. And I think there's another interesting lesson about that guy is like anyone who's leaving negative comments, like, I'm sorry, they have a lot of crap going on. Like I kind of feel sorry for them. It's always about them. And it's like, man, like, I have clients that I'm like, if they take the time to like say these things, I have a Facebook ad where I'm wearing this white dress and this one woman commented, like, I can't even pay attention because the zipper is crooked. And I've gone through like plenty, and of like, how
dare you
comments, but like I wasn't even like fazed by that, but I was like, oh, I didn't notice that. I just noticed my little pooch, like, because we all see flaws in ourselves and then everybody else sees flaws in others that really are a reflection of them. So it's like it doesn't really faze me that much anymore. I shouldn't say that on some comments, but because I know logically that it's just a reflection of them. It's typically the ones that are saying, oh yeah, right, this is going to work. They're the ones that are broke. If they're teaching someone how to make money and they're skeptical about that it's going to actually work, then they're probably broke. All these things that like comes down to, they're just reflecting, and it's kind of sad that they have to do that. And I kind of feel sorry for them. But at the same time, it's like, we have to be strong within ourselves to be able to stand up and for what we believe and what we want. And I love that you said that, like, if you don't get what you want, you probably didn't really want it. Yeah. Like one of my, actually a coach back in the day, like when I was single for like 10 years in my 20s to 30s or something like that, 25 to 35, something like that. And And I was talking to my business coach about it. Of course, like it's never about business, like you said. And he was like, oh, you didn't want to date him. Like you completely sabotaged that. Like you don't really want to date that guy, or you don't really want to be in a relationship right now. And I'm like, yes, I do. And he's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, no, yeah, I really do. I really want a boyfriend. Like I really like that guy. And he's like, no, you just push them away. You've pushed them all away because they're not good enough for you. And he's like, rightly so, like go find the person, whatever. And so it was just like, oh yeah, crap. Like, and even in my business recently, and I was going to say this earlier, is like I was having cash flow problems, and it was like I was talking to my COO, and one day I was like this sucks. Nothing's working. And she's like, can you please not keep saying that? And we keep each other like accountable. We talk to each other like every day. And I was like, Ash, I just need to be negative right now. Just let me be negative right now. I will get over it, but I just need to be negative right now. And it was like, it was like the same day I cried or whatever. And then it was like, no big deal. Within like, we just had an event like a week and a half later, and I had a 6-figure event, and we're back on top. But it was like, okay, I just had to like let myself experience it, beat myself up for a minute, and then move on. And it's not like it doesn't happen. It happens all the time. The difference, I think, between people who are successful and people who are not, or like being able to get what you want and not, is that you don't stay there for long because you can't. And if you think about, and this, I think will bring it back full circle to going back to who you're known for and really getting clear on who you want to help, is that when you focus on helping those people, like when you thought about those truck drivers those mother truckers who really needed your help, and like, if they didn't get your help, they're going to be in pain, physical pain, emotional pain, feeling like they can't get out of it. Like they're all alone on the road. Like there's so many, I can get in that headspace of that trucker, like very easily, to think about like how much, like these women in the industry think they're on an island because they're in a, oh, my dog is like really trying to get through here. They're in an office, let's say, with all men, or they're in their home or whatever. But it's like, these guys are on the road like 24/7, like with no one to talk to, guys, gals. I'm sure they're gals as well. But it's like, if you think about that person, you as the expert, and you're like, wow, like here's how I can change that person's life. And there will always be haters. It's like the only way you're making a real impact is that you have haters. If you don't have anyone if no one's negatively commenting on your stuff, if you're not getting people who are like, no, this doesn't make sense, if you don't get any pushback and no complaints, you are not taking enough risk. And like, if you keep focusing on the people you want to help and get known for something, and more about who you help, not who you are, then you can have whatever you want. Because it's all just it's just a transfer of value. It's like a validation of the value you bring to the world. I went off on a tangent right there, but I just had to go off on it.
Taking the pressure off yourself, essentially, I'm hyper obsessed with my clients and their problems and the solutions and the results they want. And in doing that, it also takes the pressure off me of being perfect, because it's not about me, like you said, it's about them. And what do we all love most? When people focus on us, whether we want that surface and superficially or not, but it's like, we want to be seen, we want to be heard. And by doing that and serving your clients in the best way you know how, like, dude, I'm a college dropout. I don't know everything, but I know what I do know I'm really good at. And I know the things that I'm really good at, I can 10x them. Like I can take them to the next level. That also is part of staying in your lane. Like if you're in the financial world, maybe you're really good with retirement, but not so great with taxes. Like no one said you need to be the expert on taxes. Be the expert on retirement. Like if you're in the fitness world and you're really good at yoga or a particular style, then own that lane. No one said you have to be good at it all. When that person is like, oh, you don't know Ashtanga? And I was like, no, I don't know Ashtanga. But I do know this. And I'm really good at this. And the people that are looking for this, I can help them. And it just takes the pressure off of you trying to be everything to everyone. And this idea of staying in your lane, this idea of being good at one thing actually doesn't box you in. It actually creates the freedom for you to go and do great things. And as you advance, as you pass go, as you collect the $200 in Monopoly, you can actually start adding things to your resume as you build that credibility. And you'll know when you're at that place, because people will start asking you, can you help me do what you did? Can you help me figure that out? Wow, how did you get there? Like, you'll know, because people, like you said, are asking. They're actually coming to you. And that, to me, is oftentimes the best indicator that you are on the right path and that you are staying in the right lane.
Love it. So good. Thank you so much. Tell them how to find you. I mean, all you truckers out there,
You can find me at mothertruckeryoga.com. We're on social. You can find me Mother Trucker Yoga or Hope Zvara. That's Zvara. And check out more about what we're doing.
Awesome. Sounds great. I think you'll get some value even if you're not a trucker. I'm pretty sure you should follow her. So check it out. Also, if you want to know more about this idea of getting more ideal clients, you can go back to the episode called How to Find and Clone Your Ideal Client. That's, I don't know the number here, but it was on November 2nd, 2022. So you can go back to that one and specifically walk you through how to get clear on who that person is that you want to attract and how to clone them like magic. So come back again next week. We'll see you here on Growing Your Financial Business the Woman's Way. Thanks again. Bye.